All right, so to get started, we're going to come into Photoshop and we're going to go ahead and create a new document. This document, Skills USA has a whole set of rules that you have to follow. If for some reason you don't follow one of these rules, it's instant disqualification. So your image can be no larger than 7 by 7. And I have seen them pull out a ruler and disqualify somebody if they were a fraction over. So we want to enter 7 for our width and our height, and we want to make sure that we're in inches. If you leave it on pixels, you're going to be creating something that's super, super tiny. I'm going to go ahead and give it a name here. I'm going to add 7th since I have a lot of these. And I'm going to click create. So now that I have my canvas, I have to think about how I want to start. And if you choose to use the state colors of Texas, I'm going to show you a little trick on how to make some little colored squares so you can always reference the actual red and blue that we use in our state flag. So I'm going to come over here, and what I did was I Googled the state flag of Texas colors, and I went to Wikipedia. And when you scroll down, you'll notice that they provide you with these hexadecimal codes or these web colors. And we're going to use those values inside of Photoshop. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this color for red. I'm going to go into Photoshop and I'm going to create a little square. And the inside of that color for the square, I want to be Texas red. So when I paste that color, I get the exact shade of red that's on a Texas flag. I'm going to hit OK, and I'm just going to make a little square up here in the top that is Texas red. I'm going to do the exact same thing for the blue. I'm going to copy the code, go to my fill color, paste the blue in, and make a little square for blue. Now the reason I did that is I said there were 3 lines of text that have to be in it. That's 2 of them, and no got the 3rd. It has to say Skills USA, it has to say Texas, and it has to have the year. So if I come into my text, and I'm just going to use these for later, and I'm going to say Skills USA. An important thing to note is Skills USA has to be spelled exactly like this. You have to have a capital S at the beginning and a capital USA. If it's in all caps, it's instant disqualification. If you have a space, it's instant disqualification. So it has to look just like this. But if I wanted to make this Texas red, because I have my color palettes here, I can simply click on the color, sample that red, and I instantly have text that's in the perfect color. Same thing goes for Texas. If I want Texas to be in blue, so by putting those color palettes there, it just makes it really, really easy to reference those colors. The last line of text I have to have is 2021. So now I have the 3 elements that have to be included, and now I can start to work on my design. I Googled the state of Texas outline. One thing you're going to run into when you download images from Google is sometimes the color profile will be in index mode, and Photoshop is not going to let you put it onto another image. It says. So what you need to do is you need to take your index mode, and under the image, you can go to mode and put it back into RGB color. That will let me take my image and move it over here. Part of the reason I'm recording this is I'm going to go over some more advanced techniques, and I want you guys to be able to reference what I do at a later date. I'm going to go ahead and size up my state of Texas outline. I don't want it to go over. I don't want it to be too big, but I don't want to leave too much extra room. I'm going to kind of place that. Now, one of the issues that we've noticed is you can't see what I already typed because this state of Texas is not see-through. I can fix that by going to my magic wand, clicking on that outside area, and hitting delete. What that's going to give me is the shape in white. And then I just need to make sure that I move it down to the bottom so it's behind all of my text. You don't have to use white, but it's kind of nice to use that while you're placing everything. You have the option to do what we've done in the past, and if I want to add a stroke, maybe I want the outline of Texas to be a little bolder. I don't want to go too crazy because then I'm going to be over my 7 inches. But I want it to be just a little thicker, have a little more impact. I think oil rigs are kind of part of Texas. I downloaded what the internet told me was a .png file. That means it has a transparent background, right? I can see the little gray and white squares. But when I take this image over, what do you know? The internet lied to me. Because the gray and white squares are still there. Maybe a little hard to see them. I don't want the gray and white squares. I wanted a see-through background. So I'm going to go ahead and hit undo. I'm going to show you guys a trick if you have a single color object that you want to pull out. I could come in here with the magic wand and try and click on the gray squares and delete them, but that's a whole lot of squares. Instead, I'm going to go to the select menu and choose color range. And I'm going to sample my rig. So I've now told Photoshop, look for anything that's black. And I can change how close to the color by adjusting this fuzziness. But because the oil rig is the only thing that's black in this image, it does a really good job of finding. Now that I've found what's black, I can either hit the invert button to select everything that's not black, and then I can hit the delete key or the backspace key. And what you'll notice is, look at the size of the transparent blocks, the gray and white. When I hit backspace, see how they're much smaller now? That's a true Photoshop see-through background. So now I can hit the backspace key, deselect, so I don't have my dancing ants anymore. And now I can move my oil rig. I can go to free transform. I can put my oil rig in. You may decide that a cowboy hat is kind of Texas-y. So I could throw a cowboy hat. I could bring it up here. You know, you don't have to leave it in the shape of Texas. Stuff can be hanging off. It just can't be over that 7 inches. So I can put my cowboy hat up there. Maybe I want to move Skills USA over here towards El Paso. Maybe I want to get a blue bonnet There's another one I happened to download that was in index mode. That's our state flower. So I could add a Bluebonnet. You want to keep your colors to less than 4, because when they go to make it and print it, you want to have less than 4 colors. Right now I've got black, white, Texas blue, Texas red, 4 different shades of blue and green. I got too many. So I'm actually going to take my Bluebonnet and do a color overlay. And I'm going to pick that state of Texas red, which is kind of funny because it's a Bluebonnet and I made it red. So maybe I'll put our Bluebonnet, and I want to put it behind my oil rig. And I'm actually going to make a second Bluebonnet. And just like we did in our old and new, I'm going to hold shift. I'm going to drag from the side to flip it around. So now I have, oops, no, I want layer 4 and layer 4. Nope, layer 4 and layer 4. So now I have some Bluebonnets behind my oil rig. When they go to manufacture these, your finished pin is only going to be 1 inch big. So you don't need a whole lot of detail. In fact, in my oil rig, if I zoom this out so that it's only 1 inch big, it's kind of hard to see the detail in it. So that's something to be thinking about as you're designing. If it's this very intricate design, you may not be able to see it once they actually manufacture the pin. To give you guys an idea on that, I'm going to